You guys, I am so excited to share a few of our family's favorite read-alouds today with you all. It was a little hard actually to pick just a few and to think, well, which ones had I read with most of the kids, or which ones were maybe new to our family that I wanted to make sure to share with you today. But although it was hard, I picked a few to share. These are some that are new, some that are favorites, and I think these are all great options that you can enjoy across a wide age range in your homeschool. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amy Sloan. I'm a second-generation homeschooling mom of 5. My oldest actually graduated from our homeschool last year and is now a university student studying engineering. But we still have 4 kiddos at our homeschool, in our home, in our family, and they range in age from 9 to almost 17, and grades currently 3 to 11. So there's a wide age range, and I know what it's like to try to find books that can appeal to a wide age range. Something that even mom and dad can enjoy, something that is not too much above the younger kids. Although I will say in our family, we push that a little far, and we've been known to read Animal Farm together as a family, and that was actually a really fun experience a couple years ago. And you'd be surprised how much even young children can pick up on with some of those deeper themes. But that being said, today I'm going to focus on some books that I have enjoyed with the kids this past year and that have just been kind of newfound favorites, and at least one old favorite, or no, maybe 2 old classic favorites. I'm looking over at my book stack here. So to start with, I want to let you know about a new series, actually. So this is like, I think 7 for the price of 1, although we've only read the first 5 books in the series. So the first read aloud hit for our family this year was the Half Magic series by Edward Eger. Now, we actually have only read Half Magic aloud to the entire family. My husband read this aloud, and it captured everyone's imagination, from my, college student age guy all the way down to my youngest son, and John and I enjoyed it as well. It is a family story, a sibling story. It has fantasy elements. If you are a fan of Eleanor Estes, so like the Ginger Pie series, or if you enjoy Elizabeth Enright, the Saturdays, the 4-Story Mistake, the Melody Quartet, you will love this series. One of the things I love about a good family read aloud, especially with a wide age range, is it has to have that little quirky sense of humor, kind of like if you're watching a kid movie with the family, but it has that kind of wink and the nod to the older people in the room as well. And I think that this book is like that. It's approachable, it's engaging for your younger kids, but it's also going to have those deeper ideas and deeper themes. In fact, I told my husband I thought this was really asking the biggest question, one of the big questions literature asks, which is what makes a good life and what makes a happy man. And I don't think it's going too far to say that that is actually what this book is about. But we loved this book and loved it so much, went on to get the whole rest of the series. These are only the ones I've already read aloud, only want to share here things I've actually read myself. And my son, my almost 9-year-old son, Isaac, has been in and out of the hospital a lot this year with his leukemia treatment. And one of the things that has been beautiful in that time is a lot of read aloud time, just one-on-one with me, one-on-one time with his dad to read. And the series that he and I have spent quite a bit of time reading are some of the other books from this Half Magic series. So highly, highly recommend Half Magic by Edward Eger and the rest of the series. While I'm mentioning all the books I've read aloud specifically just to Isaac this year, it would be remiss of me not to mention the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, Chronicles of Narnia is probably, as a series, the series I've read the most of any book of all time in my entire life. I am a firm believer that this is a series that grows with you, that deepens with you, and in fact, you cannot possibly read it too many times. If you are an adult who hasn't read Chronicles of Narnia, this is your chance to read it and experience it with your children. And if you have read it in the past and you think, oh, well, I've read it, I'll just let my kids read it, let me encourage you to take this opportunity to read it again and again with your children. We have read aloud this series to our children multiple times in different ways, in different forms, sometimes one-on-one with a child, sometimes in a group setting. We've listened to the audiobooks together. I have a favorite audiobook version I'll try to put in the notes here for the video. And every time I read it, it gets better and better. You cannot read this series too many times. If you want the reminder of what's eternally true, how do you deal with hard things? How do you deal with beautiful things? And where does our hope lie? You can't go wrong than with Chronicles of Narnia. And the silver chair, I'm kind of getting teary thinking about this. The Silver Chair is the last book that I read aloud with Isaac. We finished it in the hospital, his last hospitalization. And there is nothing that just brings so much joy and encouragement and strengthens my faith in a fictional sense, apart from the Word of God, as the story of Puddleglum in this book. I don't want to spoil it for you. If you haven't read it, or if you've only read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, please read this series. Read it with your children. Read it again and again. And you can't go wrong with Chronicles of Narnia. Anytime we're like not quite sure what to read next, if you just pick up a favorite Narnia book, it's always a winner for everyone. Okay, let me try to get myself back together. In our family morning time, I try to read aloud a little bit every day to the kids. It's really great even on days when maybe one of the teens, has work or a class outside the home, to have a book that maybe I read to them when they were younger, so they're not going to miss out on anything. They know what's going to happen, but when they are home, they can sit in with everyone else and hear the story. And that is what we did in the fall semester with Caddy Woodlon. Now, if you are a fan of the Little House stories, or maybe you're not so much a fan and are looking for something kind of similar, I highly recommend Caddy Woodlon. In fact, I don't know, but I think if I had to choose between Caddy Woodlon and Laura Ingalls, I would probably pick Caddy Woodlon. This is another great sibling story. I'm kind of actually sensing a theme so far. The first three I've shared all include siblings, cousins, kind of friendship dynamics. And this is a story set in the frontier, and it is an adventure story. It's a story about what makes a man and what makes a girl, a woman, a woman. It's a story about family. It's a story about America. It's a story about making mistakes and how we learn from them. And you're also learning history along the way. But if you have boys who maybe have turned up their noses at the Little House series, Caddy Woodlon, I know it's like named after a girl, but actually her brothers are a huge part of this story, and they are best friends. So there's siblings that are best friends, boys and girls. Every gender will love this. There are still quotes now that have become funny little jokes in our family after reading it last fall, and it was a delight. I actually had it on my 40 before 40 list. That's a whole nother thing. I don't think I'm going to make that this year, you guys. But it was one I remembered loving myself from childhood, and it was so much fun to read it aloud with the kids this fall. Highly recommend Caddy Woodlon. Okay, first I just have to show you some of these illustrations. Every once in a while I'll be at a thrift store or a garage sale or something like that, and I'll stumble upon a book that I've never seen before, and I'm just blown away by the illustrations. And that is the case for this one, Around the World in 80 Days, a well-known novel by Jules Verne. But I got this golden illustrated classic edition, and the illustrations are stunning, so beautiful. So I got this one used at a thrift store, something I don't even remember, but if you have the chance to find this particular edition, I would recommend it. So I will give a caveat with this. So we read this one aloud this spring semester in our morning time, and so that is with, not obviously, most of these have not been with my college age kid, but everybody else. And I loved it because it has short chapters, which I think is really key for a read aloud. Short chapters are the best because you can feel like you quickly get to a good stopping point without taking up too much time. And then one more chapter can feel like, oh yeah, kids, okay, I'll read one more chapter, and it doesn't take too much time. But this was really fun. So the caveat is it is a piece of literature of its time. And so there are word choices or descriptions or stereotypes that definitely reflect the bias of the author. And so that actually provided opportunities for us to discuss. There were things I was able to edit some on the fly, just minimal things that I was able to edit as I read aloud, just because of the youngest children in the room. I wanted to protect their imaginations. But it was actually kind of interesting because the author is a Frenchman. And so the stereotypes are not just for non-Western countries, although that is certainly there. But it's also very funny to read his stereotypes about Americans. I mean, he was really poking fun at Americans as well. So we could learn to laugh at ourselves and some of those stereotypes. But it was interesting because my older kids in particular were able to pick up even on some of the adjectives he would choose, the different ways he would describe different parts of the world, and what that reflected about his assumptions about that part of the world. So I will just say to be aware of that. Don't just skim over it, but take the opportunity to discuss it if you can with your kids. But aside from that, it is hysterical, clever, a way to sort of get this broad view of the world of his time in an exaggerated form, to be clear, but the descriptions are rich, the characters are very unique and delightful, and you will be on the edge of your seat. Several of us had read the book before, so we kind of remembered the ending, like the big reveal, the big twist at the end, but even so, we couldn't quite remember how we got to that twist, so it was really fun to read this aloud. We all laughed together and enjoyed this story. So I did not do this year, was not the year for it, but I could see it actually being a great read aloud if you wanted to also trace the journey on a map, maybe do a little bit of geography on the side and turn it into a bit more of a unit study or a jumping off point. But we didn't do that. We just enjoyed it, and I think it was worth reading. Here is another book with fabulous illustrations. Oh my goodness, you guys, this book is so pretty. This was one I worked through slowly but surely with my youngest son, and sometimes his big sisters would sit in, and it is a retelling of Pilgrim's Progress. It's Little Pilgrim's Progress, and all of the characters are animals. Isn't this just beautiful? Look at this. You see, it's just beautiful. Really, really beautiful. So if you were wanting a gentle way to introduce your children to the story of Pilgrim's Progress, this is a beautiful one you can add to your family's collection. Everyone can enjoy it. It is telling the story that is universal to us all, the story of the Christian pilgrimage to Zion. And so a lot of those ideas and struggles are going to be familiar. The same struggles our children have in small ways are really the same struggles we have as grown-ups, right? And so we can find points of commonality there with them as we read this aloud. And if your family, like ours, likes to set aside Sunday and do things that are special for the Lord's Day, this makes a great Sunday read. Okay, so this last one is a little different. It's not a read aloud that you read from start to finish, but upon request from my oldest daughter, my 11th grader, this spring semester, we have incorporated the Christian Almanac in our morning time. So the Christian Almanac was compiled by George Grant and Gregory Wilbur, and each day there is a new page spread. So I will just open up to, I'll open up to April 17th. How about that? All right. So you can see that there is first on one side, there's a brief story about some character, some person, or some event from church history. Sometimes it's related to that specific day, sometimes it's not. And on the opposing side, there is a quote for each day, and then there is a this day in history. So you can go through and see this day in history in 1421, 72 villages and more than 100,000 people were swept away in an immense flood in Holland. Scooching through, it goes all the way up to more modern times. 1969, a jury in Los Angeles convicted Sirhan of assassinating Senator Robert F. Kennedy. 1998, a Thai military team collected evidence from the body of Pol Pot. So there are all these other things that you can read about throughout both history and church history. So it's a This Day in History, as well as a brief introduction to some of the lesser known people and events in church history specifically. So we've been really enjoying that as part of our morning time routine. And again, you could do this at the dinner table or at the breakfast table. I think anyone can find it enjoyable. And if you miss a day or two, it doesn't really matter because it's just all in calendar order and you open up to whatever day is next. If you want even more fabulous book recommendations, definitely check out the playlist that my friend Katie from Life in the Mundane is putting together. I'm doing this video as part of a collaboration with Katie and other YouTubers sharing some of our favorites, and I hear some of them may be sharing their not so favorites of read alouds from this school year. So I will put that link in the description. Make sure you check out all those other videos as well. Now, Katie is one of the other ladies, one of the other mentors, the contributors in Made to Homeschool, which is our online homeschool community. We have come together to create a safe place off the major social media platforms where you can meet other homeschool moms, you can talk to some of your favorite YouTube creators and other homeschoolers. We have resources and live events and just a really cool community that is developing over there. You can actually get a free 1-week trial. So if you go to humilityanddoxology.com/m2h, you can find out all about that or check the link down below. And I would love to have you come and join us in there, be a part of the Made to Homeschool community. I'm often sharing things we're reading in there, or people will ask for curriculum advice or book advice. So if you love book talk, definitely come and check out Made to Homeschool. I did want to make one other comment related to read aloud. So sometimes with read alouds, we think we have to be the one reading aloud. But I want to encourage you to think outside the box and look into audiobooks as a great way to bring more family reading time into your life. So you can use Libby or Overdrive. Most libraries have access to e-audiobooks. You don't even have to pay for them. Of course, there's Audible and other online audiobook options that are great. We have apps on our kids' Kindles. I have an app on my phone. You can access it through your Echo Dot or whatever other smart device you may have, your computer. There's so many ways to access these audiobooks. And if you're riding in the car together or sitting in a doctor's waiting room, or maybe mom wants to do something with her hands or is washing the dishes, can't sit down and actually be the one reading, but if everyone is in the room together listening to the same audiobook, you're having a very similar experience to that read aloud time. You're having a shared story, shared memories, and it saves mom's voice. I actually have some of my favorite audiobooks shared in a list, so I'll include the ones that our family has enjoyed down in the description. Phew, that was a lot of books, and there's even more I could suggest. I didn't even get into the picture books that we read and enjoyed this year because in our family, you're never too old for picture books. So many other great books I could recommend, but I'll stop there for now. And I would love for you to let me know in the comments. Let me know what are some of the favorite books you have read aloud to your kids this year. I'm always adding to my library hold list. So tell me who the ages of your kids, why you loved the book, and I hope to add more wonderful titles to my family's list. And if you like podcasts, you can find me at Homeschool Conversations with Humility and Doxology here on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. Oh, and would you take a minute to like the video and subscribe to my channel? It's Humility and Doxology, and I love to encourage other homeschool moms and point us to the hope and joy we can find in Jesus.